So I put out a poll, I think it was a poll, on Instagram asking if people would be interested in how I structure my programming and how I put everything together. The response was basically all yes. I suppose it's one of those questions where it's just like, well, I'm not going to tell you if I don't want to know, but I will tell you if I do. So, yeah, I'm just going to. So this is going to be released to the Fit for Purpose group, but I'm also gonna stick this up on as public on YouTube as well. So for anybody that wants to that isn't on the Fit for Purpose program but wants to know how I program, this will be a way that you can find that out. So how I program, first of all, it comes down to a few things. Okay, so the first of those things is my guiding principle is the CrossFit methodology. Okay, so the programming method of CrossFit and how they teach it is where I kind of go back to in my roots of the program. Now, what that doesn't mean is that I'm carbon copying exactly what they do, but I just use that as a principle. So, what I'll tend to do every week, I will have the metcons or the workouts of the day, so to speak, that I want to program. And what I'll have on top of that, and this will be mainly for the compete crew, or if you're on the everyday athlete program, this will be like an optional extra. I'll have progressions over 5-week blocks that essentially it brings a little bit of focus to certain movements or skills, and you can almost treat them as ways to top up your skills and your overall strength, in certain areas of your training. So metcons, progressions over 5-week blocks. How I start to program is I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I have all of the movements grouped into movement functions. So we'll have a bunch of squatting movements, we'll have a bunch of hinge movements, we'll have a bunch of overhead press movements, we'll have a bunch of Olympic movements. There's a lot of stuff that like intersect with each other as well. We'll have body weight movements, gymnastic movements, monostructural, or you could call that cardio movements. I'll have these all grouped in an Excel spreadsheet and on a table, and I'll basically go through those and see what we've done previously and pick which ones we need to do moving forward. And what this really helps with is it helps me stay accountable to the variance that is required within the program. It's very easy as a programmer to program the stuff that you enjoy, even if you don't mean it. So for me, it would be very easy for me to program, as weird as it sounds, burpee workouts. It would be very easy for me to program higher skill gymnastics workouts all the time. It would be very easy for me to avoid longer chipper style workouts or like grindy workouts, because I'm a fast, powerful athlete that can do things like quickly, then recover quickly, then do it again, and so those fast efforts I would be partial to. So I have to try and stay as neutral and as impartial as possible, and this spreadsheet holds me accountable. So if I look at a workout and go, or if I'm looking at my week of programming, and I'll see what we've done on Monday. Okay, on Monday we've done squatting with a barbell, pretty high volume, lighter weight. So what I'll tend to think then, right, we'll maybe avoid squatting altogether the next day, or we'll have squatting, but it'll be at a lower volume, or we'll go below parallel in a slightly different way by lunging. Maybe instead of loading the legs up as much, we can move more towards an upper body focus and essentially slot the movements in across the course of the week that are most appropriate for that day. Now, where it gets complicated is I have to play that same game with time domains. So short, medium, long, very short. You then have to play that game with heavy days. So we want to make sure we're not putting too much heavy lifting into a week. Although this seems to be the theme of training at the moment, is to lift heavy, like a lot. I am of the opinion that you don't need to do that to get strong necessarily, because I did a workout the other day and it had 35 kilo strict press in it, and I'll tell you this, it felt like I was getting stronger in my strict press. Like, the movements leading into that movement meant that I was compromised in a way that I had to brace and hold a really strong position for my strict press, which doesn't always happen, but that's training that movement in a slightly different way, growing and building your strength in a slightly different way. So there's lots of nuances to it, but that'll generally be my approach in programming. Now, with the linear progression, so with the skills, the strength pieces that I'll progress over the 5 weeks, they'll stay the same, but I'll probably change the days that they're done on, and I'll also vary how I attack each one of those progressions. So it's not necessarily going to be 5x5 back squat, then the next week it's 5x5 at a slightly higher percentage, then the next week it's 5x5 at a slightly higher. That's not the way I'll approach it. We'll approach it in I'll try and vary as much as possible the rep ranges that are still going to deliver the intended result. I'll vary the rest periods that are going to again help us get the intended result at the end of the 5-week blocks. So within those linear progressions, I'll vary those workouts, A, to keep things relatively fresh and keep it interesting, but B, to change the stimulus slightly in a way that's going to improve the end result of that progression. What that might look like is, for example, I'll give the current progression. It's a 10 rep max front squat. Week 1 was find that, but the way that we were finding that was we were hitting a set of 10, then a set of 7, then 5, then 7, and then 10 again, okay? And what that does is it almost builds in a form of warm-up. And then once we hit that last set of 10, that's where we want to be at our max for our 10 reps. And then I'll play that game in a slightly different way every week. So, for example, this week it was, and this ruined me today, it was 6 sets of 7 reps at 115% of your 10 rep max. And that was rough. So that was really tough going. But you've got a built-in rest because you have to do this every 3 minutes. But you've also got a built-in and required weight that you must use for those 7 reps. And that delivers the intended result of ideally improving your 10 rep max by the end of this 5 weeks. So I was kind of going down a bit of a rabbit hole there with that stuff, but I hope that makes sense in how I like to progress movements, how I like to vary workouts and keep that variance, but also have an element of structure alongside that variance. Yeah, that's typically how I like to go about it. Trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think that's it. There's so much more I could go into about that, but I think for now that's going to be a good time to call that. Thank you if you stuck with me for the whole video. I appreciate that. And if you have any questions, I would love to chat with you about programming. I love it, and I love creating workouts and putting things together that is going to help us improve. So, yeah, any feedback as well, anything that you think would help, it's welcome. We only improve by sharpening the axe, so to speak. So, yep. Take it easy. Bye.